Welcome to Lift Your Legacy. My name is Jacob Rupp, father, husband, and rabbi. And each week we bring you an inspiring person or message to help you unlock your inner potential and create change that will impact the future. Thank you for listening, and let's get to it.
I usually have a lot of energy, but I think this might be the first guest where I am completely out-energied, if you would. I'm thrilled to have on today Lisa Fournier, who is the miracle maker mom, mother of 8, and has built systems and just has such an amazing idea about how you have to show up as a parent and how do you build a system that works in your home, how to raise kids that are happy, how to be a mentor, how to be an example, how to work on yourself, even if you're busy, like all kinds of amazing stuff. So with no further ado, I'm thrilled to have on very own the Miracle Maker Mom. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this podcast has been brought to you by me, Jacob Rupp, and Jacob Rupp's Consulting, technically Lift Your Legacy. Now, I have to be honest, I help clients often get out of their own way. And something that has really held me up was exactly the same thing, that I was in my own way. For months, people have been saying, talk about your coaching, talk about how you help people, share it, etc. And I had a really hard time putting it out there. Why? Because it's not that I don't think I do a great job. I've seen amazing results from my clients, 10x, even more than that, businesses, fixed relationships, helped people lose a lot of weight, people go on the path of making goals and fulfilling their goals, all of these things. I know I do it. And I've been in the coaching space long enough to know that there's a lot of people that don't really deliver. And the ones that do really deliver are worth literally their weight in gold, because so often we're held back by stuff. And it's just like, if only I could get over that, if only I could work through that. And I help people do that. But for me, my big holdup was sharing that I do this in a big way, in a public way, especially on the podcast, because it's awkward. I don't want people to think, oh, I'm just making the podcast to sell you stuff or to talk about stuff. So that's not what I'm doing. My point is like this. My coaching business is expanding. I'm taking on a few more clients. If you are someone that is struggling in the area of self-esteem, goal setting, health, relationships, or your business, really, reach out. I don't know if we're a good fit to work with each other. What I can guarantee you is that we'll get on the phone for a half an hour. I'll hear the kind of challenges you're having. You'll get a good feel, if you don't know me yet, of the kind of work I do, kind of program I would recommend for you. And if it's a great fit, we'll move forward. And if not, not. But I wanted to appreciate very much from the bottom of my heart the fact that you guys all listen. I appreciate the amazing guests that I have. And I'm really thrilled to have broken through in my own life to the point where I could actually devote a segment to really make a somewhat long-winded, but I think very important advertisement. So if you want to reach out to me, the email is rabbi, R-A-B-B-I, rupp @gmail.com. And the website is liftyourlegacy.live, and at lift_your_legacy on Instagram. I think it's pretty simple. You know where to find me because you found the podcast. Thank you so much. Lisa Fournier, the Miracle Maker Mom, thank you so much for joining me today. I am thrilled to have you on. I feel like we are kindred spirits on a roundabout quest to trying to figure out how to live a more meaningful life for us, for our children, etc. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Great. So excited to be here. I totally agree that as soon as I saw what you did, I'm like, oh my goodness, that is like exactly totally in line with what I do. I love it. Love it.
It's so funny because so many people don't understand what I'm doing. And so I don't know what to make about that, but I feel like for the right people, it just kind of vibes.
Absolutely.
How did you become the Miracle Maker Mom, and what does that mean?
So it's actually an interesting story. Really, the truth about the whole thing is that a couple years ago, close to 3 years ago, I was actually having a whole discussion with my mother because I was becoming a single mom. I was going through a divorce, and she said, okay, so what are you going to start doing? All these years I've been, just a stay-at-home mom, which has been amazing for me, raising my kids and being able to stay home all the years. And now it's sort of time to instead of doing the career thing and then raising kids, I did the raising kids, and now it's time to move into a career zone. And we were sort of discussing, like, so what are you good at? Like, what do you really have a lot of knowledge about? And what do you, like, what are you an expert at? And I sort of like joked a little. I was like, well, I don't know. I know how to have babies and raise kids. And I sort of like laughed. And we, all of a sudden, my mother and I both had this like moment where we both looked at each other like, oh. It was just like this really funny moment. We're like, actually, there's a lot of people in the world who are having babies and raising kids. And because of my particular story, it was just almost like a no-brainer that like this was perfect for me, because I myself struggled so much raising my kids, because I grew up, I mean, I have amazing parents. Both my mother and father were like amazing. My father had that like one-to-one connection, and we would spend all this time always talking, deep conversations, and my mother would always make everything fun. We were always going places and doing fun things, and like she loved to like blast the music. So I a little bit have like a combination of those two things in me, but it was just my brother and I growing up, and I had these friends in high school that had like these big families, and I sort of decided I wanted like a really huge family. So like fast forward to like when I had 4 kids, I was so overwhelmed because I had like no idea what I was doing, and it was like complete chaos in my life. like picture, like you walk to the park and the kids like run in all directions and you can't catch them all, like
I don't have to picture that. That's kind of what my life looks like.
like, for example, okay, we had so many insurance claims on our house, and my kids had made such disasters that the insurance company actually like disowned us. Like, it was so insane. I had no idea what I was doing, that I literally went out and took like every parenting course that exists, I think, on the planet. If I missed one, I'll be very surprised. I read so many books. I interviewed parents. I went to professional help. And basically what I did was like a lot of trial and error over the years, and put like a system in place for myself. So when my mother and I had that conversation, it was like, yeah, actually. It almost like, so then Miracle Maker Mom was, it literally didn't even come from me. Somebody, I think that when I became a single mom, people were like, oh my gosh, 8 kids? You have 8 kids and you're a single mom? You must be like a miracle worker. Like, I heard so many times from people, miracle worker, miracle maker. And I went to GoDaddy to look up .com, and I was like, all of a sudden I added the Miracle Maker Mom, and that was like available. And I was like, great. That's honestly where it came from.
All right,
but it's not about me being the miracle maker. It's really honestly that any parent, if they have the right skills and the right system in place, you can literally make miracles in your own home. It's not like me that I'm the miracle maker mom, but anybody can do this,
All right, let's go back a little bit, because this is very exciting. What is it like? How do you speak to yourself? Because there's just you radiating positivity. How do you speak to yourself through that process of completely having to restructure, refigure out your life? Like, the idea of, I mean, it's just such a universal terror, I think, amongst most people, of either A, having to go back into the workforce or trying to get a job after you've been a mom, or the idea of having a family, having a large family, having a small family, and then having to raise the kids on your own. Like, how did you talk yourself through all that stuff?
Well, actually, the going into the workforce was, the thing for me that really was important to me was to do something that I love doing. And actually, the real truth was that a few years back, I was actually doing, this class with Rabbi Aryeh Niven. And this is back in 2010. Okay, maybe it's more than a few years. Maybe it's 2012. Okay, it was like more than a few years ago, I guess. So I had this conversation on that, on the class with him at one point. He was talking about authenticity and being the real you. And he was talking about your higher soul and your lower soul, and making sure that you strive towards your higher soul, but you don't ignore your lower soul, because otherwise that, like, not really good for you. And you end up, feeling like, you lose your vitality, and you have to like take care of your lower soul. So I had posed this question to him that, like, I love being a stay-at-home mom because I love being there for my kids. But when I look at the piles of laundry and dishes, I lose all my vitality. It like disappears. I want to like hide under the bed. I really don't love the day-to-day cleanup that comes along with it, you know? So we actually discussed it back and forth so much because I said, but I really value staying at home with my kids. It's really important to me. So at the end of the whole thing, he said, like, he asked me a million questions, and he was like, it sounds to me like you're the type of person who would really benefit from going out and doing something that is really like sort of like your life purpose, your life calling that you like love, and hire someone to like do the dishes and the laundry.
And you're like, I didn't think about that.
I was like, yes, 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 yes. So anyway, so fast forward a few years when this whole thing just sort of came about, like, you know, I had prayed on this like a lot. So it really just sort of fell into place. And that made it much more doable for me because I really love what I do. Like if I was going out to a job, I guess 9 to 5 that I didn't really like, I'm not so sure I'd be so excited and have such a huge smile on my face. But because I do stuff that I really love doing, and it's inspiring to me when I see other people have successes. It's inspiring. Also, I get to sometimes make funny videos, which I crack myself up, honestly. I like come up with a new idea and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like just now I've been putting together a video about like humiliating, hysterical things that kids do, like that moms are just like, you know, out of their mind, embarrassed. So I'm sitting on my bed writing notes to myself like, oh, remember when that happened, or remember when this happened, and I literally was laughing, and my daughter walked into the room. She's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, oh, just myself. It's fine. Like I love doing this, you know. So I think that's, you know, a huge part, because when you're doing something you don't really love doing, it's much harder to do. When you do something that you love and you not only find success in it, because sometimes you can find success in things like in, you know, bringing in income, but you don't really love what you're doing. So when you really love what you're doing, then yeah, that actually gives you the vitality to keep going. Yeah.
One of the things that sticks out, and forget about the I think the dishes happens to be, I actually like doing the dishes, but you know, the dishes and the laundry are those things that drive people crazy. I think in parenting, there's a lot more than that, which is that, you know, why do we have children? So, you know, we do buy in. I think in most cases we buy into this idea of wanting to create a better world for someone and to share our love and all that kind of stuff. But then it's like when you're running around screaming at your kids to go to bed for like the 40th hour that night, like we don't love that part. So talk to me a little bit about how you start with the expectation that you actually can put some level of control into your life with your kids.
Level of control.
Like, how do you do that? Life seems so wild when you have children. How do you start with the premise of trying to implement a system? Like, how does it even work?
How does it work to implement a system? Well, oops, I think I just knocked my camera. Sorry. Creating a system. So, this is what I did, basically, okay? I took like a lot of different parenting courses over the years, and I found that some of them spoke to me more than others. But the amazing thing is that each one of them had like some diamonds, you know? And then some things that I didn't necessarily love or weren't my personality or I didn't really agree with. But they each had like diamonds. So I sort of collected the diamonds from each of them over the years. And then at some point, when I started to work on this Miracle Maker Mom business, I like categorized them, put everything into slots, and made like a system that's like 8 steps, like the foundation, the next foundation, the next part, you know, and goes up from there. Now, all that has to do with like, you know, the basics of a relationship. You know, many of these things aren't even specifically parenting. Many of these things are, you know, relationships you can have with your spouse, with your friend, with anybody. like the idea of being someone that someone else looks up to. Your teacher in school, that like the one that like everybody was like, oh, guess who I saw in the store today? Like you want to like follow them around and you love them, as opposed to like the other guy who like everyone makes fun of and plays tricks on, So you want to be that type of person. You want to be the one that like everyone's like, oh, your mom, your dad's so cool. I want to hang out at your house, right? And then of course it moves up from there. Like there's things like the environment in your home, communication skills, setting boundaries. All these things are like different systems that you can create. Of course, there's the power of the subconscious mind, which is a huge one. That's a huge, like, it just in itself.
Can we stop? Talk to me about that.
Power of the subconscious mind?
Yeah.
It's my favorite topic. Oh, please let me talk about it. I'll talk about it for like 10 hours. Okay?
Great.
Subconscious mind is basically the concept that your being has a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, right? So picture an iceberg. Like if you were to Google a picture of an iceberg, if you're sailing along in the Arctic, you'll see like this huge iceberg, but you're really only seeing the top 10%. The entire real part of the iceberg is under the water. It's like this huge depth, right? So your conscious mind is really only like a certain percentage of your mind. Your subconscious mind is all that's way down deep, okay? Your subconscious mind remembers everything in your entire life. It remembers things that happened when you were a baby, things that happened when you were a child. It remembers like all these things, like things that you can't actually remember that happened 3 years ago on a Tuesday on the 1st of the month. Like you don't actually I'm like, I don't remember that conversation, right? Your subconscious mind remembers all these things and it stores it. Now, the conscious mind is the part of your brain that like you think, your analytic mind, you make your thoughts, you remember things, your decisions that you're making right now. Your subconscious mind, however, is the mind that sort of drives where you go in life. It brings you where you're going to be. So whatever you want to accomplish in life, you've got to get your subconscious mind on board. Otherwise, you're never going to get there.
So just to stop, I'm so sorry, just to stop to rephrase so I can make sure I'm in line with what you're saying, is that all of the calculations that we do to build what we want, that's really not the main driver behind what we do. The main driver is the stuff that's going on under the surface. And even if we can make the best plan of the world, if we don't have the under the surface stuff in the right direction, it's not going to go.
Yes.
Great.
I'll give you a really basic example.
Please.
Let's say you have someone that's very overweight, okay? And she's decided in her mind that now I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose weight. I made a plan. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to lose weight. If her subconscious mind has deep down inside that I am a fat woman, I am always going to be fat. I am never going to be slim. Let's say maybe her mother used to make fun of her that she's overweight. Or maybe she had friends at school that used to always poke her and tell her that she's overweight. Maybe she has this image from, just from growing up in social media and looking at herself in the mirror. Whatever it is, she has deep down a subconscious mind that I am always going to be overweight. The likeliness of her losing weight and keeping it off is not so great. So what she needs to do is train her subconscious mind that she is slim. She can be a slim woman for the rest of her life. Then her subconscious mind is going to work to make that actually a reality. So one of the things in like when I created my parenting course was very much like a whole section on subconscious minds. How, the amazing thing about raising kids is that like, okay, you and I, we're already walking around with like a subconscious mind that's programmed. It's been programmed for all the years of our lives, from when we were little, when we went to school, from all the friends we've had. Our subconscious mind is like programmed. Now, of course, we can change that programming, but it takes effort. When you have a child, the most amazing thing is that you are the one who's setting the programming from the beginning. You're like sort of downloading its first apps. You know what I'm saying? The first, because when a child's born, they don't really have any opinion about themselves. They don't think anything about themselves. You're the one that tells them, you are smart. You are, pretty. You are, whatever it is you tell your child, that's what they have until something comes along else maybe changes their mind. So anyway, I have I have some, like a whole bunch of tools to help you program your child's mind, to help them, feel that they can achieve things in life. They can, move forward. There's so many different things you want to teach your children in life. And not only that, but to help them get past their already sort of pre-programmed nature. Because every child, of course, every person is made up of nature and nurture. Like you have a nature that you're born with, and then you have the home that you grew up in and the friends that you have, right? So, yeah.
So, I mean, just practically speaking, and I know this is a very broad question that's difficult, but let's say I am that fat woman, man, whatever you want, and I want to be skinny for life. Now, it sounds like an amazing, very marketable program, but like practically speaking, how in the world do I start to change my subconscious?
How do you start? Basically, your conscious mind has to repeat it over and over and over and over until it starts to trickle down into the subconscious. That's not something from my program. That's something anywhere you go, you learn about subconscious mind. They're all going to tell you the exact same thing. I'm just like, the subconscious mind is only a little section of like, well, what I teach. But yeah, for anybody who wants to do that, you just like, for example, positive affirmations, when you go, like I actually made a really cute book just for myself and my followers, for parents, all about positive affirmations you could say about your children, about yourself as a parent. But like every day you wake up and you say affirmations, you say, like positive things, whatever it is that your goal is, you want to convince your subconscious mind that is, you can accomplish that you are that. So you say these affirmations again and again. And from a parent's perspective, these are things that you tell your children. But of course, you have to be authentic in it. You can't just like go around telling your child, "You're so smart, you're so beautiful." Like that's like, oh, go away, mom. Like, right? You have to do it in an authentic way. Like when you see your child doing something, you point it out to them. You sort of label, because like a child could do something, and you're like, "Oh yeah, thanks," as opposed to saying, "That was thoughtful. Wow, you're so thoughtful," right? That's programming them. They're thinking, "Wow, yeah, I'm thoughtful." Now they're not going to sit there and go, "Yeah, thank you, mommy, I'm thoughtful." But when you say it enough times over the course of 20 years, it does go down there and it makes an impression.
So I guess the awkward question would be, is it possible in your experience for a parent that hates themselves to create kids that love themselves?
I love that question. Okay, sorry, I'm getting too excited. I love that question. I really love that question. One of the main foundations that I start with, which is actually step 1 in my parenting course, is all about firing yourself up to be a fabulous role model for your children. Because I'm not going to say before. Not before you can be a role model to someone else, but simultaneous to being a role model for someone else, you have to become the person you want them to have as a role model.
You're saying you have to. You can't not. I'm saying because why am I belaboring
but it won't be the optimal, because for example, if you have, let's say you're making a school for your child, right? You get to handpick every single teacher that this child is going to have. Now, what do you want to pick for your child to have as a teacher? Do you want them to have someone who's angry all the time, who picks on them, who blames? Do you want somebody who's quick to like point fingers, or someone who's lazy? Like, you want to pick out teachers who are like good role models in so many different areas and different character traits, in just so many things that you can model after, like someone who smiles, someone who has a kind word for people, someone who looks for the good, not always complaining, right? So these are all traits that we can all develop if we put some effort, and we are, there's this concept of just like being intentional. Sometimes like most of us, we're all running through our day every day. Like you said, you had a crazy day, right? Like, and I was crazy busy also. We run through our days so often that we don't take the time to really sit down and be intentional about ourselves, our personal development, intentional about where our goal is now in our parenting, what we're trying to move forward with. So yeah, just building yourself into a fabulous role model is definitely number one in being a fabulous parent, because your kids are going to become little miniature yous in many ways. And it's like the most shocking experience when you first see it happen, like your kids do something and you're like, why'd they do that? And then you're like, gosh, I do that. Like, I hate that, right? It's scary, but it's true. So as much as our kids have their own nature, which sometimes is partially from us, and they have nurture from many other places than us, friends and school and other family members, a lot is us, especially if we're the one that they look up to and want to model after, which hopefully is the case. So yeah.
So now the question that I think, and I don't know if this is an everybody audience, certainly an audience of people that are very busy and have a lot of commitments. Most people think like, I don't have the bandwidth to work on myself. I just have to basically show up. It's the whole thing. It's like, when is there time to do the self-work? Like, I still have to put dinner on the table or make money or sleep or go to the gym. So like, how does one, because if you think about it, the journey of becoming, I mean, look, it's very easy to blame our parents. It's very easy to blame our own personality traits. And, I am just an anxious person, or it would make sense that I'm anxious because of what happened in my past. And if we really start to see ourselves as a blank canvas, or a more blank canvas than we originally thought, we are overwhelmed with the enormity of the task of becoming better people for ourselves. And if you think about how, thanks God for with Snapchat and Instagram, like, you literally could spend your entire life watching Netflix, and then you also have to work and have children. It's like, when do I have time to self-actualize?
So true. It's really true. So I find personally that doing things that are just like little, like you say, Snapchat, little snaps, is really the best, because even even the fact that, sometimes when you take something on that's so huge, it feels like so overwhelming that I'm never going to get there. Just sort of like when you walk into that kitchen that is so disaster-like, it's like, no, I can't start. I had no way, right? So I find that, if you, let's say, pick a book and you read just 5 minutes every night, it makes, especially there's some of those books that it's like a chapter a day. It's like only 2 pages. Or there's also, there's so many things like you can find challenges. I love challenges. They're like very big nowadays. I'm actually starting a challenge soon. But like just having like something small where you can get like little snaps of these things. Another really great idea is to have like a journal that you keep every night, and you sort of like just talk to yourself about the one thing that you're working on. For sure, like if you take on a million things to work on, it's not happening. But like I mentioned, Rabbi Aryeh Niven, I had taken his class a bunch of years ago. So he said that, like, every year when you start like your new year, you come up with 2 things that you are going to work on this year. And I found that, like, just being able, and he suggested like every day to have, he liked the idea of having like a partner that you work with, like either every day or every other day, to talk about it. I like the idea of just journaling about it. So you have like let's say, I like to pick one thing that I'm working on for now for a couple of months, and then like later we'll work on something else. And every day you can just sort of track it.
That kills people, though, because there's such a I don't know how to say Yetzer Hara, not that word, but there's such a drive to not want to attempt the small stuff, in the sense that, again, if a person is looking and they say, I just think the physical example is easier, but, let's say I have to lose 100 pounds, and, that's going to require tons of diet and tons of exercise and X, Y, and Z, and therefore I'm not going to start. And if I would just start to say, have one less brownie 1 day a week, and that's what you could actually stick to, people are going to be like, wow, but it's going to take me so long. So what I'm hearing you say is that, no, it's not going to take you so long, because you actually get accustomed to the little victories.
And if you're overwhelmed and don't know how to start, it's because you're trying to add too much in the beginning.
Yes, but I have to say that another really great thing is to learn about whatever you're doing. I actually had somebody, one of my teachers told me this one time. I was like, I feel like I'm out of school, I'm out of all these personal development, intensives, and I just feel like I'm what am I working on? I was overwhelmed with a whole bunch of little kids at the time, and he said, if you want to really work on a trait, learn about it, because just learning about it inspires you to notice it. If you want to work on just not being, let's say, lazy, and to be proactive and just jump up and have more energy, then learn about that trait of how to develop it, or what it is, or other people that do it, or join maybe a group of people that inspire each other to do things like that.
So that's such an amazing point. I wanted to speak that out because I think the way that you said it is beautiful. So much of when I speak to clients of mine, it's like, okay, what do I do about it? And I'm like, we just uncovered something that's been operating in your life, your whole life. So the first thing to do is not do anything about it. Sit there and figure it out. Oh my gosh, I am acting. I have this identity. And so what you're saying, and I don't know who said it, but you said it and we're going to give you credit for it. The idea of learning for the sake of awareness, that really the awareness is the greatest to do when it comes to overcoming something. Because if you realize you have a negative relationship with food, you have a negative body image, you are expecting your children to be obnoxious little brats, that awareness, that's a lot bigger than a short plan. And just sit with that awareness for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Rabbi Baruch Smith who told me that. And yeah, I love that idea. Whenever I'm feeling like I haven't paid attention to some particular thing in my life, I'm like, let's just go learn about it. Let's read about it. Let's find a book about it. Honestly, that's what inspirational quotes are. And the inspirational quotes are all over social media and people love them. But that is literally what it's doing. It's taking something that you want to be inspired about and giving you a one-liner. So if you could add that one-liner to a 10-paragrapher, and do that every day, then could you imagine the impact that it's just going to have on you? It's seeping information from your conscious mind down to your subconscious mind. That's literally what it's doing.
One thing that we deal with a lot, I think, in the world we live in today, and I'm speaking more about the Western world, but I think it's kind of endemic in everything, is this sense that I don't want to have kids, or my life, I have to do me, and how do kids fit into that? And unfortunately, I think that most people have those feelings after they've had the children. It's like, I have my own life. What am I supposed to do? So how do you advise someone who feels they've lost themselves in the process of being a parent and is resentful of that, frankly?
I love that question. I love the way you said that people think these things after they've had the kids. It's so true. It's really true.
Well, no one knows how much work it is in the beginning, So it's like, oh, we'll have a kid. We'll have a couple kids.
I know people also that go into parenting saying that I'm not going to lose myself. And then it's just so physically overwhelming at the beginning. And you just also you don't have that relationship that you can have that conversation. Once they get to teenagers, it's amazing. It's almost I actually have to remind myself sometimes when I'm talking to my teenagers that they are still children, because they look like adults. They sound like adults. They have vocabularies like adults, but they don't have the experienced mind of an adult, I myself definitely went through this mom burnout situation. For sure did definitely do that. What would I advise other parents? First of all, this is so not helpful, because you hear this and you're like, yeah, right. It's it goes by very quickly. It's the years are short and the days are long, right? So that's really true at the beginning, especially now that my baby, my oldest is 18, and I'm like, what? What? He's an adult? No way. So, yeah, so I don't know. I find on one hand, it's so important to keep up with the things that you love to do, because again, like I said, when I started my new business, it's something that I love to do. So it inspires me. So I just find that in some area of life, you got to keep up with something that is just like you know. Like I used to horseback ride when I was a kid. I used to ice skate. I did like a lot of things that I sort of gave up when I became a parent. Which, okay, the truth is that technically when you are 9 months, during those 9 months of pregnancy, you can't actually ice skate or go horseback riding. That's true. But there are some things that you can do. And at some point, I did finally figure out that I could do these things with my kids. Like, I'll never forget, there was one year that I took my kids skiing. In Michigan. We were living in Detroit, and we went skiing, and we had such a good time. We went, I think, midwinter vacation or something. We had such a good time skiing. Now, the next winter, I took them skiing again. Now, I have to say that I had a baby in between. Like, we went in January, I had a baby in November, and we went again in January. And we brought the baby with, and somebody babysat inside, like, while we went out skiing. And I was just laughing my head off that I could actually pull off going skiing every year with my kids, even though I had a baby in between, you know? Because if you know that it's important that for your own sanity to do fun things or to do something that's like up your alley. Some people are artists. Some people like nature walks, like just something that keeps you sane. You're going to find some way of you should find some way to put it into your schedule, whether it's with the kids or without the kids. Like, I personally grew up, what my mother was always like into making everything fun for my brother and I. So like she never, almost 99.9% never did vacations without us. So I almost find it painful to take vacations without my kids. So I actually like doing these things with my kids. So once they were past 2 and 3 years old, I started like I take my kids skiing, or we go, now we live in Israel and we go like water hiking, and we go on all kinds of fun trips all the time. So like just find things that are so you, and like don't forget your friends, and like all those things are so important for your own sanity, which you really forget at the beginning.
So what I'm hearing is that being selfish, quote unquote, is actually being selfless, because you are not going to show up as your best self. And again, it's like a life thing. It's not just a parenting thing, but I guess the parenting is a more extreme version of it. And also that the things that you love that are you, those are actually opportunities to connect with your kids. And it's like you get double credit because you're doing what you like and your kid comes along as well.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Right. I have done things for myself with that. My kids, like this past year, I was in a big play here in Israel. They have this play called Tir Hamed that's like for ladies, and you fly to Europe, and there's like 11 performances in 6 different cities. And so anyway, I did that, and some of my kids actually auditioned and they didn't get in, and I got like the main role in the play, and I did it without my kids, and I had such a good time. Right. I made friends, I went traveling, I did so many things, and I had such a good time. And you know what? My kids were happy for me, because like the idea of like, you could also teach your kids to be happy for mom when she does fun things, because I'm happy for you when you go on trips and do fun things. So they also were happy for me. They sat in the front row on opening night, and my kids' best friends and my best friend's kids took up the entire front row, and they laughed and cheered and clapped. And so sometimes, do things with your kids, and sometimes do things for yourself without your kids. Because if you do things for yourself, it's not called, hey, if you're doing it all day, every day, and ignoring your kids, maybe it's selfish. But if you're doing it because, look, moms and dads, they give to their kids by route of their cup overflowing. If you just keep pouring out, it's going to get empty, and then you're going to be running on empty. And you know what that looks like? Well, you don't want to know what it looks like, right? We all know what that looks like. You want to be giving to your kids by route of your cup overflowing, and that means you have to fill yourself up with things that make you a whole person. And every person has an upper soul and a lower soul. So some of that is spiritual, some of that is physical, like we all need sleep, we all need healthy food. Some of that is emotional, some of that is mentally, like, hello, read a book that's not like on the level of a kindergarten kid, So like we all need to be filled up with friends and relationships. These are all like important things, and then you can overflow to your kids. and walk home after play practice with a huge smile and have so much energy to give your family, you know?
Oh man, Lisa, I feel like that we didn't even talk about child raising. I think the time just kind of flew by, and I feel like we'll have to circle back and do another one of these. We can jump into more specific details, but how do people find you and the program that you will be launching at the time people listen to this?
So my website is called miraclemakermom.com. And I am also on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram at Miracle Maker Mom. So you can find me in all of those places. I'm actually starting a Facebook challenge coming up soon. It's going to be a 10-day challenge called Mischief Managed to 2x your kids listening and cut power struggles in half. Like I said, I love the challenges because they're short and to the point and give you exact nuggets that you need to see real results fast, you know? So yeah, I've also got a blog on my website. That's, Miracle Maker Mom.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate it.
There you have it, folks, another inspiring episode. If you enjoyed this, I ask you to please share this with your friends and to like us over on Rabbi Rupp through Facebook or on YouTube. And the more that we're able to get these important messages out, the more that we can really make an impact in the world. So I encourage you, please, to stay tuned. We have a ton of amazing speakers coming up, and also to tell your friends about it. Thank you very much.